Hey guys, Ronan here. So I have to do a follow-up video to the rich trucker versus poor trucker video that I did about a month ago. So if you recall that video, for those that have seen it and for those that haven't seen it, I'm just gonna recap that video. What we did is we took two drivers with the identical mileage, identical trucks, and we compared their pay. And one driver took home $2,000 in 15 days. The other driver took $5,000 in 15 days. Here is the slide shots of their pay. On the first driver pay statement, one driver took home $2,000, the other driver took home $5,000. They both drove the identical mileage. One driver drove at about 5.4, 5.6 miles per gallon, and the other driver drove at about 8 miles per gallon. So the reason I'm doing this video is a follow-up to the video that we did, and I actually have the driver who I brought into the office. I talked to him about his fuel consumption. I talked to him about his idling time. I talked to him about how long he's on cruise control. I pulled out the stats of 4 other trucks. We did end up governing his truck at about 63 miles per hour. So we locked the truck so he can no longer go 70 or 75 miles per hour. And here are the stats of what we came out with. So he's been driving almost 1 month. I'm so excited about this video. I really wanted to put this out there of how he improved his fuel consumption. So let's go into my analytics. If we took this driver that we did last time and we compared, 27 days. So he was driving at 5.9 miles per gallon. He drove 9,900 miles and he did 5.9 miles per gallon. So he spent total on fuel $7,125. So $7,125 Canadian is what the driver spent on fuel. If we take the exact same, we'll take 25 days of May because today is May 25th is when I'm doing this video. The driver, just from tweaking him, just from locking the truck, just from him now knowing, what the problems were and how much money he was wasting on fuel when he can just make minor tweaks into his driving habits, and he would be able to preserve a lot of his fuel, and the consumption would be a lot better. So this driver was able to go from 5.4 miles per gallon, and he went all the way up to 8.1 miles per gallon for the month of May. And there's 3 things that really he had to do. Number 1 is he needed to stop speeding. Number 2 was his acceleration, and number 3 was the cruise control. 4 things, and number 4 was idling. So he stopped idling as much. We can see from his April statement that the driver was idling 33.9% of the time. So literally 1 hour out of 3 hours he was idling the truck. And the way he brought it down in May is he was only idling 10% of the time. So it's 1 hour out of every 10 hours. So he significantly decreased his idling time. Another thing is the time on cruise control significantly went up. So this driver went from almost having no time on cruise control. He went up to about 40% on cruise control. So that's the amount of time that you spend on cruise control throughout the month. So this driver was regularly driving with his foot. He loved driving with his foot. These trucks are extremely smart. On cruise control, you will find that they're the most economical. So with a minor tweak, he went from driving from his foot to driving on cruise for, I would say, for 40% of the time he's driving on cruise. So he significantly increased his miles per gallon. And the third thing is he stopped speeding. So the driver did open his truck, although we have to, our trucks are governed here at 65 miles an hour. We locked this truck in at 65 or 63 miles per hour. And here are the stats. The driver basically saved about $2,500 on fuel in the month of May after we were able to show him how he can improve. You can drive the same amount of mileage. You can not be home for the exact same amount of time. One driver can bring home $5,000, and in our story, our driver brought home only $2,000, and they really were both not home for 13 out of the 15 days. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring him in here. We wanted to tweak it up a little bit, show him what he was doing wrong, send him back out on the road, and now monitor his progress. So I'm extremely happy to say that this driver did it. This driver took what I said, and he was able to change a little bit his style of driving, knowing that he would make a lot more driving the exact same amount of miles. And obviously, the end goal is, how much money to make and to achieve your financial goals, right? For yourself, for your family. It hurts me very much when I see he's basically just burning his money. And now I am a lot happier now that he's taking home a lot more money. And the difference was literally about $2,000. So I'll put the screenshots up just so you can see. I'll go over the stats. So here he is, that's his unit number 652. His miles per gallon for the month of May, almost in completion of the month of May, is 8.1 miles per gallon. The amount of gallons he used the distance that he traveled, the amount of money that he wasted on fuel. So another thing that I really want to point out, and I'll put up the screen. So I talked to him about the 3rd or 4th day of May is when I brought this up to his attention. When you bring this to the driver's attention, all of a sudden they go 180. So they go from not monitoring and not looking at the fuel consumption at all to monitoring every second. I just want to pull out the stats of what happened to him his first week that he was driving after I brought it to his attention. So I'm going to take the full week of May 9th to May 15th. The driver drove 1,600 miles and he drove at 9.9 miles per gallon. 9.9 miles per gallon. 9.9 miles per gallon is really unheard of. I believe because I brought it to his attention, in that week, 65% of the time he was on cruise control and he was only idling 1.6%. So 1.6% of idling is also unheard of. It's very, very low. Basically, he didn't idle at all. But as time goes by, drivers kind of tend to go back to their normal course of how they work. So he'll monitor, he'll drive on cruise for 1 week, he'll be really eager, he'll see the cost savings, and then somehow there's gonna be a good balance between the way he used to drive versus now, where he's at, right now for the whole month of May, he's at 8.1 miles per gallon. So he has taken home about $2,000 or $2,200 more than he took home last month. This is a great success, but why don't we hear from him now, what he has to say. So I'll bring it over to Callie. Callie was the driver. He allowed me to say his name on the video, and he wants to actually speak about the change and from his perspective when I brought him in, and the difference between back then and now for him.
So many of you saw that video that Ronan did, you know, rich truck driver versus poor truck driver. That was Lee's, and unfortunately I was the poor truck driver. I was the one with the high fuel bill, and it was really, really high. So basically the problem was, months ago my fuel bill was really high, a little over $10,000 for like 30 days. So there was a problem. Either my truck was broken, which I don't think that was the issue, or I'm just going too fast and being too heavy. So here's the thing, when I saw that video, it kind of opened my eyes, because again, back in the day, fuel was cheaper, so people say run, 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 so I ran. Now fuel is high. When I took home $2,000 for 2 weeks, I actually kind of felt like to be honest with you, because the other guy took more money than me. The funny part is the other guy ran slower than me. You know, his truck was 65 miles an hour and my truck was wide open. It's proof, right? Speed actually kills your fuel and actually kills your paycheck.
So guys, in the comments, we received a lot of comments on this video that, you know, the comparison was not fair. It wasn't equal. It was different lanes, different routes, different weight per load. And I agree with you. I cannot pull exact comparison apple to apple with the same loads and the same destinations. I can't do that. We don't have two identical drivers, but I was able to bring it as close as possible that I could. So I got two drivers with the exact same trucks. They came off the factory line at the exact same time. They have the exact same engines. The only difference is the style of driving. What I did in this video is I didn't compare him to anybody else. I just compared his 1 month versus this month. So just by talking to the driver, just by him stop speeding, just by him stopping to idle, monitoring his the cruise and how long you've been on cruise and the acceleration, these were the results that we were able to get from the same driver. We have the stats comparing him from last month to this month. The driver himself, I mean, he sees it, so why don't you hear what he has to say about all this.
So Ronan asked me, do you want the truck to be locked at 60? Just to see, you know, the experiment, to see if you can get that kind of fuel mileage. Well, I was a bit skeptical because I didn't think trucks can actually do that kind of miles per gallon, but I said, well, why not? You know, I got nothing to lose. If it works, I'll leave it on at 60. If it doesn't, then I'll just do my old thing. And one thing led to another. We decided to limit the truck and say, you know, let's see if we can get 8.6 miles to the gallon. You know, in the beginning it was a little challenging because I'm so used to, you know, running the speed limit. So it took me about a week to get used to it, but during that week, my fuel miles per gallon went up really high. Like it actually, I was surprised because I've never driven a truck that can get that good miles per gallon. So I started at 7.6, went up to 8.2, went up to 8.6, and then I started hitting 9, you know, 9.1, 9.5. Keep in mind, that was from Seattle, Washington to Toronto with 25,000 pound loads. So you do have some mountains. I never idled the truck. My idling was like 5% or below. The weight made a lot of difference when it comes to miles per gallon, but even that, So when I got to Wisconsin, I filled it up, and then right before I went to Sarnia, I filled it up again, and that's when I did my calculations, and I did 9.97 miles to the gallon. Filled it up. I divided the miles and the total distance with the gallons, and I came up with that number. He told me one time the last 5 days I was averaging 9.1 miles to the gallon with 25,000 pound load. When I did the little experiment, is actually you're gaining more money by running less miles by saving more money on fuel. I'm kind of like old school. Back in the day it used to be a run, but now it's kind of like Freightliner says, run smart. If you reduce your miles and just get 8-9 miles to the gallon, then you're gonna come home with some pretty good money. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Why? Because one is you don't tear up your truck. The faster you go, tires go out faster, the drive shaft, everything else, right? You got a lot of moving parts, so those moving parts, they will go out faster. I'm not saying you're gonna get 9.5 miles to the gallon every single time. I don't get it every single time, but I do average pretty well. I really don't care about running hard anymore like I used to. I get less stress because basically I'm not passing anybody anymore like I used to, so people pass me. Every truck's got a sweet spot. My sweet spot is 58. Every truck is different, every driver is different, every terrain is different. So the point of the video is speed is not always the answer, and in general it does kill your fuel mileage. I'd say 80-90% of the time. I think if you go anything above 67, 68, it'll kill your fuel mileage. That's why a lot of trucking companies such as Schneider, JB Hunt, a lot of them, even in Canada like Challenger, they run their trucks at lower speed because it's about fuel. And having one truck, it actually wakes up my eyes. I can actually see, the numbers. I can't imagine what the numbers will be if you have like 5 different trucks and you're running high speed, right? You're running a speed limit. It burns your fuel. You have to choose. If you want to make more money, the answer is not running faster or longer. The answer is just running slower. Now, the only reason company trucks run them at 65 or 70 or 72 miles an hour is because company drivers don't want to, run 55 miles an hour across country. And that's okay. That's their problem, but I'm paying for my own fuel, so I could care less what they do. I care about what I do because I want to save money. Sometimes I do run at 57 miles an hour, and it helps me because, again, fuel is very expensive. So if I can save that kind of money, then I can use that kind of money and, buy me something else instead of giving it, to the Love's truck stop or whatever, Petro Pass.
So guys, let's be realistic. 9.9 miles per gallon, you're not gonna get over a course of a month. And if you are getting it, thumbs up, please. I'd love to do a video on what you do in order to get 9.9 miles per gallon. But realistically speaking, we should be able to get about 8.5, 8.7 miles per gallon. In the near future, I'm going to be handing out bonuses to our fleet drivers for anybody that hits 9 miles per gallon, and I'm going to be splitting the cost difference in the fuel with these drivers. So I want to see how many more drivers that if we bring it to their attention and we gave them money for it, so the amount of money they're gonna save on fuel, we'll give out a big bonus to the drivers for getting the 9 miles per gallon, 9.5 miles per gallon. I want to see how many drivers would actually hit it. I'm also going to be doing videos coming up soon on the fuel consumption, comparing Peterbilt's, comparing Kenworth, comparing Volvos and Freightliners. So if you're enjoying these videos, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to ring that bell that when we do make new videos that you'll get notified of it. I'm Ronan, I'll catch you in the next one.